Hi, I'm marriage and family therapist Gerald Chambers, and I'm reading tonight from Reddit. Reddit is an American social news aggregation, web content rating and discussion website. Registered members submit content to the site, such as links, text, posts, and images, which are then voted up or down by other members. So I'm on what's called a subreddit, which is a discussion group about domestic violence. So I wanted to read a couple of the posts. This one is first time domestic violence. So I'm not innocent in this story. My boyfriend of 6 years and I have been going through a rough patch, and I unfortunately began an online relationship with someone. It was never physical. Last night my boyfriend found out. He was understandably upset, and I was trying to calm him because our child was asleep, and he choked me. I was so afraid, and I followed him into the bathroom where he hit me over the head, and I honestly don't remember too much after. I do remember cowering on the floor. I have two children. He's the father of the youngest. I don't want to call the police, but I'm afraid. What will happen if I call the police? I don't know what to do because he's the breadwinner and I'm currently in school. I'm feeling lost and low. Wow. Well, I think one of the comments pretty much outlined pretty well what the police would do. They'll either, come out. They may or may not come out. But if they come out, they may take a report, give you a copy, file it away, but do nothing further. They could investigate further by speaking to your boyfriend and any other witnesses. I guess they could seek a warrant for your permission to access your medical records, immediately arrest your boyfriend, and pursue criminal charges for domestic violence based on your statement alone. I guess any of those things could happen. I don't know what they're going to do. What I would like to comment on is the state of your relationship and what I think you should do to keep yourself safe. I think in terms of thinking about safety, you have to try to prevent him from harming you, obviously. You have two children, but you also have yourself. Even if you didn't have children, you don't want him to kill you. If he kills you, the game is over. So you want to, by any means necessary, prevent him from harming you. That also protects him because if he harms you, then he's going to jail. He may get shot by the police. Any number of bad things are going to happen. Now, it's difficult to leave. As you said, you're a student. He's the breadwinner. You guys got kids. It's difficult to leave, but I think that the number one thing is to make sure you're safe and that he doesn't hit you again. He doesn't harm you again. From what you described, him choking you and hitting you in the head, that type of attack, that type of violence indicates a higher level of lethality. When a perpetrator hits you in the head or chokes you, that's a little bit more dangerous than, say, pushing you or punching you in the leg. Any of those things can hurt, obviously, but a headshot is a little bit different and choking is a little bit different. I think that other than hitting you, period, that passes a particular threshold in terms of violence. So one thing that I would do is I would reach out to a domestic violence victim support group of some sort in your area to get more information about what resources are available to you, make a safety plan, try to think about what you would do in the future, because this may happen again. If there are no consequences for the behavior, it's quite likely that he's going to hit you again. If he's that dysregulated, he'll probably will at some point. He might not immediately, but at some point he'll probably use force against you again. I think the number one thing is to try to get to a safe place where you can discuss with someone that has some resources, some knowledge of your area, that can make some suggestions, further suggestions as to what you can do. Knows your local laws, knows where your shelters are, can give you some referrals for support, can help you get started. The batterer support victims groups are very good a lot of the time. So I would reach out to them for sure and just try to keep yourself safe. None of this is, no matter what you did, you didn't deserve to be hit. You didn't deserve to be choked. Obviously, in a conflict, both parties are doing something. You did something, but it didn't warrant you getting hit over the head. So it might not take that much next time. We don't know. It's unpredictable at this point. But get yourself safe. Start thinking about how you plan on leaving. You're in the process of leaving right now. When you come on Reddit and ask a question, when your partner hits you, you're in the process. I don't know when you're going to leave, but at some point you're probably going to leave this relationship. Is my gut feeling about it. It could take you a while. You could go through a lot more violence before you leave, but at some point, I think that you are going to leave. But you want to try to do that safely for both of you. You don't know how dysregulated he could become if you decide to leave. Many times men that batter women are actually dependent on them in some ways that they haven't even begun to understand. So when you begin to withdraw, he may attack. And so you got to consider that. You got to be safe. You got to keep those babies safe. And good luck to you. The next one I want to turn your attention to is Nottingham News. Now, I just saw this. Police handing out blunt knives to domestic violence victims to reduce stabbings in the home. Around 100 knives will be handed out to victims so their partners can't attack them in the home. And this story is by Matt Jerem, and it came out on June 12th of 2019. No-point knives being handed to victims of domestic violence. Victims of domestic violence will have their kitchen knives replaced with blunt utensils to prevent their partners attacking them in their own homes. Nottinghamshire police are piloting a scheme where around 100 no-point knives will be handed to victims who have either been treated or attacked with a knife. That's interesting. I mean, a no-point knife, I guess, is less harmful than a knife with a point, which can be used to stab. But a knife with a blade can still be used to cut the neck, slice the face, and hurt you. So I'm concerned about. My biggest concern would be you can still be hurt with a knife, and what other measures we might be able to take to separate the people, remove the person out of the home. I know it's very, very difficult to leave these situations, but I'm not so sure how, what kind of benefit a knife with no point would have on it if the knife still has a blade. And that's just interesting. It'd be interesting to see. I'm gonna follow up on this story. It'd be interesting to see how this turns out. Police are concerned about the high level of knife-related incidents that happen in the home and are hoping the new scheme has the potential to save lives. Domestic violence knife crime makes up more than 17% of incidents reported to Nottinghamshire police. In 2018-19, out of 900 reports of knife crime, 159 were related to domestic violence. Superintendent Matt McFarland, the new knife crime strategy manager for Nottingham Police, who is overseeing the scheme, said, "We do see a fair amount of knife-related incidents in domestic abuse, not just on the streets. This is a measure we need to take. We want to reduce the risk. It's a trial. We have about 100 of them, and we have so far given out about 50. The knife is blunt at the end, but still functions as a knife, so you can't stab anyone, but you could still cut someone with it. That's my point. And so this would be very interesting. I don't know how this is going to work. If someone is intent on hurting you, they can weaponize almost anything. And certainly a knife with a blade on it can still hurt a person by slicing them. I wonder if they'll just have different types of knife wounds now as a result of this. I don't know. This is just very interesting. I've never heard of any program like this before. I ran across it and thought I'd bring it to your attention. They're taking the tips off the knives. The next one I want to turn you to, this is an older story. This came out in July 2019, but I'm just seeing it right now. But the Tennessee DA, I don't prosecute LGBT domestic violence because I don't recognize it as a marriage. This story is in Pink News. Okay, so this dude, Tennessee DA Craig Northcutt, speaking at a conference, The Local Church's Role in Government. The Tennessee District Attorney is facing calls to resign after saying he wouldn't prosecute cases of LGBT domestic violence because he didn't recognize it as a marriage. So here's a situation where a officer of the state, an elected official, is just saying, hey, I won't protect all the citizens under my jurisdiction or in my county because I don't see them as being married. That's interesting. I guess if you were a person of color and he didn't see you as a full citizen, he wouldn't protect you either. I don't know. But if you take that logic out far enough, it makes less and less sense. But this is the kind of thing that we got to work on in our society, to remove people from office that will not uphold their office, that will not protect all of the citizens. Gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual people, they're all part of our society. And our elected officials, the district attorney, without question, needs to protect everybody, or try to. Coffee County District Attorney Craig Northcutt is currently under Supreme Court investigation after a video surfaced of him making the homophobic comments at a conference. Well, good. I'm glad they're taking a look at him. He needs to get yanked out of there. Is this part of the problem? And some of the other stories that we read, that the governments just didn't have the money to implement new programs or enforce the laws that were on the books. But in this one, here's an elected official, a district attorney, just saying that, hey, if you don't have sex the way that I do, or if you represent your sexuality in a different way than I do, I don't even recognize you. I won't even protect you. I will discriminate against you. So wow, this is really disheartening. This next one is from the Irish Times. Mass protests in Spain after 19 women murdered by partners. Feminist emergency demonstrations follow series of high-profile rape cases. Protesters will take to the streets of more than 250 towns and cities across Spain on Friday to declare a feminist emergency after a series of high-profile rape cases and a summer in which 19 women were murdered by current or former partners. Organizers are aiming to turn the night purple, the color of the feminist movement, to raise the alarm and protest against apathy, indifference, and a lack of attention from politicians in the media. So far this year, 42 women have been murdered in domestic violence attacks and 32 children left motherless. Since the government began recording such murders in 2003, 1,017 women have been killed by their current or former partners. The demonstrations come 3 years after the notorious gang rape of a woman at the Running of the Bulls Festival in Pamplona, and amid the trial of 7 men accused of raping a 14-year-old girl in Catalina. The gender-based violence of the summer has led to the worst figures in more than a decade. The Pamplona attack, known as the Wolf Pack case after the name the rapists gave themselves, shocked Spain and provoked a fierce debate over the country's sexual offense legislation. There were furious protests around the country after the judge presiding over the original trial cleared the 5 of gang rape and convicted them only of the lesser charge of sexual abuse. In June, Spain's Supreme Court overturned the regional court's verdict, ruled that the men had committed rape and raised their sentences from 9 to 15 years each. While prosecutors had initially argued the defendant should face charges of sexual assault rather than rape because the girl was drunk, under the influence of drugs and did not fight back, they upgraded the charges to rape on Monday, despite the outcry and anger provoked by such cases. Spain's far-right Vox Party has called for the repeal of domestic violence laws and attacked psychopathic feminazis. So this story came out on Friday the 20th, September 20th. The woman was drunk and used drugs, so they wanted to say that she participated in her own rape, I guess. Society still doesn't respond well to women in their fight against sexual assault and abuse and that sort of thing. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, the reason why we're talking about it, is to raise awareness, try to raise consciousness, try to get us thinking about these cases, thinking about how to help women and girls be more safe here in the United States. This case was in Spain, but we had the same problems here. Not enough money to implement programs for education and prevention. Unwillingness to enforce the rules that are on the books. People that are not very well trained in law enforcement and the legal system. And women catching hell from men. So that's the reason why I'm reading it. There's this whole notion that, somehow the victim is to blame for the crime. So it appears that all around the world it's the same song. In my previous videos, remember, it was South Africa, it's France, it's Spain, it's the United States, all around the world. Women are finding difficulty. Women and girls struggling. Every woman is somebody's sister. Every woman is somebody's daughter, somebody's mom, somebody that if it's not okay for my sister or my mom or my daughter to go through that, it's not okay for any woman to go through that. So that's why I'm bringing this up, trying to raise consciousness around this issue. Put in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about these issues that are coming up in our society. And if you like this video, please subscribe. Give me a little feedback. Thank you for listening.